I've watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood twice now, and this has been a profoundly interesting experience for me to say the least. Mainly because I didn't love it the first time I watched the film. I came out of the theater a little bit frustrated, a little bit disappointed, a little bit like I don't want to watch that ever again. What the fuck was that? And that's my honest feeling, you know? I was like, there are interesting scenes in the movie, but I wasn't sure that the whole was greater than the sum of its parts. It was a lot of why. Why are you doing this? Why are you spending time here? And so I let the movie sit with me a couple days. People asked me questions about it, mostly people who hadn't seen the movie. In fact, only people who hadn't seen the movie asked me about it. And I was honest. I was like, you know, it's all right. It's a mixed bag. My analogy for it was, it's like someone was telling me a joke, and they took so long to get to the punchline that what would have otherwise been hilarious amounted to a, okay. And you walk away like, all right, that was irritating. Why did it take so long to get to that punchline? So I let the movie sit with me a little bit more, and something started, I don't know, a voice inside said, you should watch it again. You should give it another shot. You might like it more. I don't know where that came from, but I decided to give it another shot. And so the first time I watched it was the first evening it was out, July 25th, and then I watched it again last night, July 29th, and I loved it. It was the weirdest thing, man. Like, I came out of the theater, I'm like, wow, like I really love this movie now. This is so bizarre because I didn't like it the first time. It was all right, I didn't hate it, but I love this movie now. I spent a lot of time last night trying to figure out why. And I think a big reason why was because I let go of all my expectations the second time around. The problem with Tarantino films, a lot of times for me, I think is the marketing. Because they market you this film with a lot of momentum. Like, if you watch any Once Upon a Time in Hollywood trailer, it feels like it's got this fast pace to it. You know, the music, the cutting, everything like that. It feels like a lot of action, a lot of fun. And it is fun, but it's not the kind of fun that the trailer is telling you. And this happens every time. With Inglourious Basterds, I had the same experience. It's like this very high momentum film, and then you get there, and it's like first gear the whole way through. Like, it picks up to fifth sometimes, but it's mostly first gear. You're mostly riding at 10 miles an hour. It's enjoyable, but it's enjoyable at its pace, you know? It's not what you're expecting from the commercial, and I think that's the thing that throws me off. And so I'm watching it the second time, and I know what not to expect, I know what to expect, and I realize I'm allowing the movie to just happen to me. And I'm enjoying all the things that I didn't like the first time. The thing that bugged me the most, and I'm not gonna go into spoilers, by the way. I mean, it's gonna be tiny spoilers, but nothing huge. The thing that bugged me the most was the Sharon Tate stuff. I was like, why? Why is this in the movie? Why are we spending so much time on this? And I had to sit and think about it. You know, Tarantino loves this era, and what he does a lot is he spends time on what we consider the mundane, the boring stuff. The stuff that's normally left on the cutting room floor, that would normally be cut out of a script. He leaves that in there. He enjoys that stuff. My biggest example of that is Pulp Fiction. In Pulp Fiction, you're spending time with two hitmen who are just chilling out, talking basically. They're having conversation that is normally not part of movies. It's their off hours. What do hitmen talk about during their off hours? They're talking about a Royale with cheese, you know? That's interesting stuff. And so here, it's not quite as interesting as two hitmen talking, but it's the same kind of thing. You're watching a celebrity from the golden era of Hollywood doing her mundane things, the things that she enjoys doing, whether it's going to a Hollywood party, hanging out with Roman Polanski, watching a movie with an audience that doesn't know she's in the audience, and enjoying that experience of the audience reacting to her stuff, which is something I know Tarantino has done because my brother was there when he did it. My brother went to go watch Grindhouse, and both Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino were at the front of the theater. After the film ended, they stood up, turned around and waved to everyone, and then started answering questions. No one knew they were gonna be there. No one had any idea. This is something not just Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez do. A lot of people do this. They go, they put a hat on, you know, they hide themselves, they go into the theater just to see how people are feeling about the film, because they want to see everyone's reaction to the film. You know, what they react to. Yeah, all the stuff with Sharon Tate the first time I didn't like, and I enjoyed it more the second time, knowing like a little bit more why Tarantino would spend time on that stuff. The other thing that bothered me was how much time was spent watching Rick Dalton's work. I was like, it's funny, but so much of the movie is spent on this. Why are we spending so much time here instead of moving the plot along? And I realized the second time that that's part of the point, you know, is really immersing yourself in his journey, in his career. So you see where he came from and how high he fell from. You see what everyone recognizes about him, why he's this actor now who is on the cusp of fading out, and this fear he has of being a has-been, and how that's informing everything going on in his life, his mental, like why he behaves the way he does, and his struggle. I enjoyed all that stuff way more the second time around. And there was little things in the film that I didn't really pay attention to that I noticed. I did not remember watching it the first time that Brad Pitt goes to a drive-in movie. Somehow I missed that. It's not a big part of the film, but it's there. And when I was watching it, I was like, well, the first thought was, I don't remember this. Wow, that's weird. And the second thing that I thought about was, why is this here? Why did Tarantino decide to have Brad Pitt go to a drive-in movie? And I realized Tarantino's showing you a lot of things that are largely extinct. There's a scene with Al Pacino talking on the phone at a restaurant. The rotary dial phone was brought to his table so he could talk on the phone because cell phones didn't exist back then. It's this neat thing that's gone. You don't do that anymore. No one needs that. There's a lot of little details like that throughout the film. I'm not gonna give them all away, but it's just neat to go back in time and see all that. The only thing that might have bothered me was that some of Leonardo DiCaprio's dialogue felt a little bit too modern. Outside of that, all the dialogue was great, all the acting was great. Like, I'm not gonna go through the list of actors and tell you why all of their performances are wonderful. Everybody's performances are wonderful. The only people I'm gonna mention are Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Al Pacino. I loved watching Brad Pitt. Like, Brad Pitt is mostly just Brad Pitt, but he's just an interesting person to watch. He's an interesting person to just watch him do his thing. It's a lot of fun. Leonardo DiCaprio has so many great moments. Like, I think that this is some of Leonardo DiCaprio's best acting. He goes through a whole variety of moments, and it's just like, I could feel his emotion throughout the film. I loved what he brought to the table. Al Pacino had a few scenes. All his little nuances were just wonderful. I loved Al Pacino's acting in the film. The acting across the board was great. One of the things that I came to appreciate more the second time was also how Tarantino sets certain things up based on your expectations of, other films that have come before. He surprises you again and again. And I knew to sort of expect that after Inglourious Bastards. But here, it was done in ways that I didn't anticipate and didn't see coming. That was a lot of fun, especially the second time, especially with a fresh audience, because I knew what to expect. And so I was almost like the Sharon Tate in the audience, because I'm like, I know what's coming, and I'm so ready for this. And the audience's response to certain things in the film was so great, and it was so much fun to just kind of be part of that roller coaster, particularly in the third act of the film, because I could feel the tension, I could feel what the audience was feeling, but I knew what was coming. If you guys get a chance to watch it a second time, you should, especially early while the theaters are still packed. Every single showing I've looked up for this film has been a sold-out room, sold-out theater. It's crazy. Another noteworthy thing to mention is the music in the movie. There's a lot of great music choices. Tarantino knows his music. But the only other film I can compare this to in terms of the era, the style, and that wall-to-wall noise is American Graffiti. If you guys haven't seen American Graffiti, tonally it's different. American Graffiti is PG, I think, or PG-13 at most. No, back then there was no PG-13, so it was PG. And it's a hangout movie. You're just hanging out, wall-to-wall music, hanging out with these different characters. They're all interesting. And so here it's a similar thing where you're just hanging out with these different people, and it's not moving at a fast pace, and there's wall-to-wall noise. You are hearing the noise of 1969, and that's interesting as well. It feels like there was so much work put into those nuances, those details, to really immerse you in 1969, the golden era of Hollywood. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot more the second time around. I recommend watching it a second time if you haven't, especially if you watched it once and you're like, it was all right. Watch it a second time. I'm confident you'll enjoy it more the second time around, because I'm a very critical person. I'm analyzing movies on a lot of levels. And so for me to enjoy it way more the second time and to the point that I love it now, I feel like that says a lot about the movie, and I feel like a lot of other people could have a similar experience. If you watch it a second time, you might come away having a whole different level of appreciation for it. The last thing I want to mention is a very specific thing that happens in the movie. I'm not going to tell you the details of what happens exactly, just that Brad Pitt has a flashback. And this scene almost got cut from the movie, but I'm so happy that Tarantino kept it. This is a thing that happens to a lot of us, where we're working on something and we sit for a second and we have a flashback. And it's something that is kind of shitty. We aren't necessarily proud of it, but we're able to reflect on it now, and it's yeah, that was pretty dumb. And it's this thing where the film spends a considerable amount of time, a good 10 minutes of the movie is this moment. And I love that it's in there because it's so real. It happens to all of us where we look back and we're like, yeah, that was pretty dumb. I probably shouldn't have done that. That's all I want to say about that. In case you haven't watched the movie yet, like, or if you have, even if you have, you'll know what I'm talking about. I love that that's kept in the film because it feels so real. And there's a lot of moments in the film that feel real. If you've worked on films ever, if you've been part of the process, if you've hung out with people who've worked on films, there's a lot of moments in there where you're like, wow, that totally does happen in real life. That's so interesting. Anyways, you guys, it's hard to talk about this movie any further without going into spoilers, and I'm not sure if it's safe to do a spoiler review yet. I don't even know if I'm gonna do one. I don't think this really needs one, but hopefully you enjoyed this review. Hopefully you enjoyed the movie. Let me know your feelings in the comments below. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Check out our other reactions, reviews, short films, and vlogs. I'm Jaby Koay. Peace out.